Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you so much for being here with us today for this Guesty virtual meetup on beating seasonality with a year-round marketing strategy. So quickly, I'd like to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Matthew Olarsh, and I am the Director of Customer Success in the EMEA region for Guesty, which is the industry's leading short-term rental property management platform. And joining me today are prominent thought leaders from the travel and short-term rental ecosystem. Please join me in welcoming Matthew Martin, booking strategist from Beyond Booking. We have Paul Terlizzi, operations manager from Silk House. And last but not least, Roberta Savatero, marketing director from Kasai. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Looking at our agenda today, I'm going to begin by sharing some of Guesty's latest data and trends. And then moving onwards, I'll invite our panelists to share their insights on beating seasonality with the year-round marketing strategy. And lastly, we'll conclude with our panel discussion, where we'll also take in audience questions as well. So let's kick off with the latest Guesty data. Now that July 4th is in the rearview mirror, all American property managers have their eyes fixed on the next big red X on their calendar, and that's Labor Day weekend, which is the first weekend of September. Looking at the numbers, Guesty's users' reservation volume for Labor Day weekend in the US is 13% higher than that of 2021 and 21% higher than that of 2019. In addition, Guesty users' average nightly rates currently ring in at $462 per night countrywide. These rates are 12% higher than 2021 and 48% higher than 2019. Outside of the US, what's happening in the high season in other big markets? In the United Kingdom, looking at the months of June through August, Guesty users' reservation volume is 51% higher in 2021 and only 7% lower than in 2019. And on the other side of the globe in Australia, Guesty users' reservation volume for what is the winter season down under is already 37% higher than pre-pandemic 2019. Now, let's move on to the topic we've all gathered here to discuss today, and that's marketing. Simply put, the industry has changed. If 5 years ago, it was good enough just to optimize your listings across the OTAs and on your direct booking website, in 2022, you're gonna have to think bigger. As the short-term rental ecosystem becomes more professional, drawing in big money and new talent, creating an edge very much depends on how you communicate your company's story to the world. This is true throughout every single weight class, with some of the biggest names in the industry, Vacasa and Sonder, for example, increasing their marketing sales budgets in Q2 2022 when compared to Q1 2021 by 130% and 227% respectively. Now, does this mean you need to also increase your marketing budget? Not necessarily, but it does mean it's time to define and build your very own marketing strategy, no matter what your team size or budget may be. And this is especially true when it comes to year-round seasonal marketing. Your properties may be located in an attractive seasonal location with lavish beaches or great ski slopes, organically attracting guests who are looking for a place to stay. But when the season changes, so do your numbers. Sounds familiar, right? Well, the good news is that it doesn't have to be this way. In 2022, there are so many channels, tactics, and solutions that allow you to reach to potential guests all year long. Take, for example, Guesty user Host and Stay, a leading property management company based in the United Kingdom. To grow to over 700 listings and counting, Host and Stay continuously invests in specific, highly targeted, and timely marketing initiatives. Rather than wait for high season, the team at Host and Stay uses every calendar month as an opportunity to get very specific with their marketing. Whether that means highlighting the reasons January is the perfect time to book a holiday stay on their robust booking website, or even blogging and creating social media posts around February half-term, you can bet that their team has a marketing strategy in place that takes advantage of seasons, events, and holidays 365 days a year. So now I'd like to turn it over to our first speaker, Matthew Martin, booking strategist at Beyond Booking, to share ways to make the most of the last summer months and high season and how to capture last-minute bookings. The stage is all yours, Matthew.
I appreciate the introduction and thanks a lot for having me on. Like you said, I'm Matt Martin from Beyond Booking. So I just wanted to start with discussing the importance of data-driven marketing, which is sometimes overlooked. We tend to focus more on the execution side, primarily of marketing plans. And so data is fundamentally important to drive decisions and create marketing plans that can pivot and adapt year round, especially with our high and low seasons. And so what I want to focus on here is where to start. So I'm going to go through a what, why, and a who scenario so we can start to build up a foundation of how to market and find our customers or our potential guests. So good marketing starts with a buyer persona. We want to narrow down a niche audience and give us advertising clarity. So if we have a unit in Colorado, for example, we don't necessarily want to advertise or market to everyone visiting Colorado, but we want to focus in on our strengths of our properties. And from there, we want to have sort of advertising clarity, and it allows us to focus our efforts and also our budgets. So playing to the strengths, starting with the what. This is what's our unique offering? What attributes of our properties do we have that makes us unique? Are we next to major attractions, popular destinations, and special accommodations, and so on? So for the purposes of the webinar, my example is going to be I am next to a major attraction. Perhaps it's a big outdoor hiking area, boating, etc. And I can move on to now the why, which is why are people visiting the property? And I like to write down on each portfolio that we work on, and I'll sit down and write these three key elements down and figure out what the plan is from there. So you can do the same. So in my case, it's leisure vacation. Then we can move on to the who and start building our guest personas. And so we want to look at a few places where we can find data and collect information on our potential guests, starting with analytics software, which is, of course, a great place to harvest data in terms of who's visiting, what the personas look like, who our audience is. That can be from a direct booking website or some other key areas that you can insert analytics. And including some OTAs, they'll provide guest insights, and even the Guesty booking website. If you use that, you don't have a direct booking website, it'll allow third-party scripts at the bottom of the settings, including your analytics or your CRM scripts, so you can follow the customer through their journey of checking out and booking and where the traffic's coming from. Of course, social media will have things like Facebook pixel tracking, which will allow you to build lookalike audiences to use in further advertising. And so all of these you want to implement as soon as possible. And if you already have them and are collecting data currently, then you're going to want to revisit them and utilize what you have collected so far in ways that maybe you haven't thought of, or just in general. Also, guest feedback, it's highly overlooked, but if you're able to interact with guests in ways where maybe you're introducing the property, meeting them directly as they visit, or you have some sort of touch points with the guests, feel free to ask them questions pertaining to why they stayed with you and what made them choose your particular company or property, and get insights that way. So that's a great offline strategy to figure out who your guests are, why they're visiting, and you'll uncover sometimes ways that guests find you that you haven't thought about. Even if it's the pricing was what they wanted, that's still data to uncover. Either your pricing strategy is on point, or perhaps you're priced too inexpensively. But either way, it's a good resource to speak to guests directly. So using the what, why, and the who, we can start to look at our ad copy and craft it according to the information that we've gathered and try to hone in with our content. So then we can use the who, which is our buyer personas, in order to target those guests on appropriate ad platforms. And as we collect keyword and search term data, we can double down on what's working. Of course, what's the higher converting keywords and phrases. As a strategy, I like to use broad match keyword bidding, and at the beginning, depending on budget I usually run it for a week or so just to try to uncover new targeting methods, and that would be keywords and phrases that I might not have thought of, but are allowing people to find me. And after a week, I would switch it back to more unique keyword bidding strategies, but it allows you to uncover some hidden data. So now I want to talk about owning your data. So direct booking websites are still the best way to capture user emails and analytics because you have the full path of the customer journey, and you've got access to more data. So if you're using OTAs exclusively, there are opportunities where you can send follow-up forms to gather emails, and you can utilize offline events like scannables inside of the property or Wi-Fi login forms, and then use those emails, of course, to build up a mailing list and think about low season opportunities and getting in touch with customers. So yield management's not necessarily part of my marketing strategy. However, you have to have appropriate pricing. So there's plenty of tools you can use to do that if you're not doing it manually. But of course, if you're going to put all this effort into marketing and advertising, you're going to want to have appropriate rates. So content marketing from data is not just the who, the why, and the what is not just appropriate for advertising purposes, but also for our organic content marketing. We can use those same clues and insights that we've taken from earlier, and we can insert that into our organic marketing and repurpose a lot of the same copy. And using blogging, media posts, and video storytelling, we can do that a lot more effectively by using that data, of course. So just as an example, if bookings are slow in May, you can consider an article titled "The Top 5 Things to Do in Montreal This May," be it here in Montreal, or use titles and keyword stuffing in after uncovering really high converting keywords. So in the low season, we're still high opportunities here. We're going to use the insights that we learned from the high season because we've had more traffic, we've had a higher ad spend budget in either case. So we're going to double down on what's working from the high season. That's not always the case of your audiences will not be the same. So your ad copy and visuals might change with the season. Just as an example here, I've got a high converting summer keyword kayak with overnight stay, and in the winter it becomes bunny slopes with cabin. It's the same property, just a different experience that the guest is looking for. So we'll pivot with the ad copy, for example, but what's important is at that point we reanalyze the buyer persona. We can't assume that our high season guest is necessarily the same as the low season guest. So we're going to want to drill down into both seasons and try to see if there's a difference with the buyer personas. And then we're going to section those out so that we can use them appropriately in our advertising and marketing in high and low seasons. Nothing groundbreaking here in terms of promotions, but utilizing some of the techniques above to make sure that we've got a good email database that we can use in the low season. Here, I'm just offering a higher discount than I normally would through a slow season of November 1st through January 31st. And, that's just a quick overview of a promo section. And getting creative with creative. So I'm looking to turn what might be a negative into a positive by illustrating very to the point here that the dream is, of course, a luxury cabin with a warm fireplace. And the reality is snow removal and this is a locally targeted campaign. So rather than relying on too much traffic internationally, I'm trying to target more domestic customers that just want to take a weekend off, and illustrating without too much design skills, the point of my ad content here. And also not just a contrast of winter, summer months, but even some of the most popular destinations that you may be next to. For example, in Rome have slow seasons. And I'm illustrating here a very visual, impactful point that in May, you can expect sort of this type of destination in Rome versus August. And I'm trying to drive home that you may want to consider changing the dates that you had in mind for visiting a destination like Rome due to the popularity of the seasons. So those are just some quick examples of how we can accomplish some high and low season marketing. I had a lot to cover in a small amount of time, so I hope I was able to touch on a few things that you can explore further. Of course, if you want to get in touch with me, my email here is below, and our website. We're always happy to discuss any ideas or questions that you have. It's completely free of charge. And just quickly, beyond booking, we're a full service marketing agency for STR hosts and PMs, custom website design, marketing plans, and we integrate with Guesty in terms of working with their API and building that into direct booking websites. So I think that's all. Thank you very much. If there's any questions, I will look out for them below. Otherwise, you can certainly email me or find me on Twitter, Matt in MTL. Thanks, Matthew.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. Thanks for those great insights and recommendations on behalf of Beyond Booking. I'm now going to invite Paul Terlizzi, Operations Manager from Silkhouse, to showcase how his business was able to build and maintain an in-house marketing machine and become a leading property management brand in Dubai. Over to you, Paul.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for the introduction, Matthew. So I am Paul, the Operation Manager of Silkhouse in Dubai. Silkhouse is a young short-term rental company based in Dubai and in the Middle East. Currently, we are managing a portfolio of 100 properties, and we are scaling up across different markets in the Middle East and in Asia. We are achieving high occupancy throughout the year. So today I'm going to try to give you my best tips in order to achieve the same kind of performance. So here is the plan. First, we will speak about discovering who are your guests to better target them. Then we will speak about the importance of knowing your market well in order to have the best strategy. Then we will see where you should post your listings and what you can do to generate more leads. And finally, I will give you some tips to retain your customers and to build a community. So first of all, let's speak about your guests. So I find interesting to create two different segments. The first one will be the long-term dwellers. So here we have the projectiners, the digital nomads, the people that are willing to work from home, and also the relocation. So the people that are coming in the market to start a new life, to settle. Then on the other part, we will have the short-term dwellers. So here we have the local tourists, the people coming for a short business trip, and also the people visiting their families. So according to these profiles, I think it's very interesting to interview your guests to understand who they are, where do they work, why did they book your apartment, what incomes do they have, what are their hobbies, and also maybe what will they make extending their bookings in your apartment. The idea is to really understand their needs in order to target a specific segment. You can also adapt your product, your apartment to them. For example, if you want to segment the business travelers, I think it's smart to add a desk and a desk chair, maybe a printer or monitor, so they can work from home easily. You can also propose them appropriate services like dry cleaning services, or recommend to them the closest co-working spaces. Another example, if you prefer to target the families, it can be interesting to add a baby crib or strollers. Maybe you can add some toys for the kids. You can also get coupons of discount for the best families activities that they can do around the location. Then let's now talk about your market and the strategy. It's very crucial to know your market at your fingertips. You need to know who are your competitor, what are the market prices according to the season, and also you need to set what you expect in terms of revenues per month for each apartment. This way you can adapt your strategy according to the seasonality. I would advise you to build a long-term offer during the low season to kind of maintain your occupancy even for a lower ADR. You can set like special discounts for longer stays. In order to attract direct booking, what I did, I built a long-term, like a medium-term rental agreement with some flexible terms. For example, you can have an option for monthly payments. You can also have a short notice period in case they want to check out before the contract term. You can include a weekly cleaning. You can also be flexible in accepting different payment methods like cash, card, transfer, or even cryptocurrency. I think it could be a great idea. The main idea here is to be competitive and attractive in order to catch these longer term bookings during your low season. Now that we have set up the strategy, we need to talk about distribution. So where you should post your listing. Of course, I will always advise to you to put your apartments on the main OTAs. This brings a lot of traffic, as you all know. So Airbnb, Booking.com, VRBO, etc. It's also important to be present on the local platforms. In each market, there is some websites where you can publish your apartments to rent them out. This can help you to generate leads to generate direct bookings as well. Then I can also advise you to do some kind of partnership with relocation companies and also with real estate brokers. They can propose your apartments to their clients, and this will also increase your number of direct bookings. And the last but not least, the corporate sales, they actually represent a big chunk of our bookings. They need accommodation for the staff and business partners throughout the year, and their booking are really helping us during the low season to maintain a great occupancy. Lastly, let's talk quickly about building a community to retain your guests. It's also important to add your branding inside your apartment. I will give you some example of this in my next slide, right there. So yeah, the first pictures is our smart locks that we put in all our apartments with our company name. We also offer to our guests a nice welcome pack with drinks, snacks, and a welcome card. We are also displaying our company name on the TV screen on the sleeping mode. And also, as you can see the frame, we put some branding in our apartment wall. So that really helps the guest to recognize the apartment and remember that he had a great experience in our apartment, and will make him book again one of our apartments. So to conclude, I would say the first thing is to really understand your guest in order to adapt your apartments to their needs. Then you really need to establish a clear strategy in terms of pricing during the high and the low season. About the distribution, try to list your properties in as many platforms as you can, but don't forget to consider the local channels and also the local partnership you can build with brokers or corporate clients. And of course, try to add your branding to your apartment to retain your guests, to create a community, and always try your best to make your guests happy, to increase your number of returning guests and your number of direct booking. That's it for me. Thanks so much for your attention, and I will hand over to Matthew.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Paul, and especially for sharing some of those great strategies with the audience on how you can promote those year-round bookings and maintain the high occupancy. Really appreciate it.
Most welcome.
Thank you. And now for our third panelist, I will go ahead and invite Roberta Savatero, Marketing Director from Kasai, to share Kasai's marketing tech stack and proven tools that have helped them generate more bookings and revenue. Over to you, Roberta.
So first of all, I would like to thank Guesty for the invite to be here and speaking with this amazing audience today. And it's an honor to be here representing Kasai, my company. So for those who don't know, Kasai is a prop tech startup in Latin America. Right now, we are managing over 1,000 apartments in Brazil and Mexico, and willing for much more in the next few months. So, well, let's start talking a little bit about seasonality and how we are facing this here at Kasai. So first of all, here I invite everyone to think about a good marketing strategy involves integration between different areas. So a good marketing strategy is not only a responsibility for marketing, but also for different departments of the company. So here I'm gonna bring 3 different departments and how they connect to each other so that we can face the diversities of the market during the whole year. So everything starts with the product, and we need to shape our product to be able to accommodate different traveler needs. So we need to adapt our portfolio to be the one-stop accommodation shop. So be in the most prime locations, in most desirable locations, be flexible in terms of length of stay, and offer a real full service portfolio. Those are things that we really look into product. Then second, we are talking about revenue. So pricing have an important role here when we talk about seasonality and how we can accommodate different prices according to the demand. So here in this chapter, I'm going to talk about dynamic prices and how we are working with a proprietary pricing tool that works similarly to Uber in order to maximize RevPAR. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about communication and how communication plays an important role to educate our users and our guests to really explore our unit in a different way. Okay, so let's talk about all these three departments, starting with product and how we turn to Kasai into a one-stop accommodation shop and what that means. So here I'm going to give you a practical example on how to diversify our portfolio. So Kasai started back to 2019 in Mexico City and later on in São Paulo. Both are super busy city destinations. We do not face a very strong seasonality. However, pandemic changes everything. And we were forced to adapt the entire company and pivot the entire company to attend a new necessity of our current guests. So the current guests of Kasai by that time in 2019 were super impressed with Kasai experience, and with the pandemic, 80% of our guests arrived to us and asked us to expand Kasai experience into leisure markets. So super quickly, we started pivoting this strategy with 41 units. In less than 6 months, we put 41 units live in 5 different locations to understand how eager were our guests to really enjoy Kasai in a different context. And what we discovered by that time is that when you serve the same guest with different travel purpose, you can increase the lifetime value with each guest. So we experienced a higher ADR per guest. So we double our average ADR, offering solutions in the city and in the beach. And also we were able to have a RevPAR around 60% above the market, the short-term rental market here in Latin America. So here, the first thing, the first key message here is adapt your portfolio and assure you are addressing different target needs so that you can combine both and potentialize your results. Secondly, we have a second very important pillar, which is revenue. So we need to adapt prices according to our demand. So here I'm going to talk basically about how we optimize our prices lively and how we operate with special packages and promotions for long stays, especially during the low season. So here again, I'm going to bring you an example of Florianópolis. Florianópolis is a beach destination in Brazil, which experiences high season from January up to March and low seasons from April up to July, more or less. So here you can see a graphic of ADR and occupancy and how Kasai and market were performing during the high and low season. So what we can see is during the high season, Kasai were operating around $60 to $70 average ADR, while the market was in 56. And during the low season, we dropped our prices by 30%, while the market dropped by 20%. So we were more aggressive in dropping the prices. What we see here is the result in the occupancy rate. So when we look into the occupancy rate, we were able to drop our occupancy rate around 30%, while the market dropped the occupancy by 50%. So by declining prices in a more aggressive way, responding to the demand, we were able to suffer less with the lower occupancy. So this is a real and live example. And I think the most important learning here is regarding not being afraid of dropping prices. I know prices is always a nightmare, especially for, well, all marketeers, because it's always related to how much we are destroying value of our product. But on the other hand, what we are doing here is really adapting the value of our product that varies throughout the year. So it's important not to be afraid of pivot different price points and really optimize your occupancy with that. So for this, we developed a proprietary tool, which is an internal algorithm that is constantly being updated with new data so that we can be better in this optimization. And of course, during the low seasons, it doesn't mean necessarily that during the 3-4 months that you are facing the winter time, you are going to be with low prices. So during the low seasons, you have moments and opportunity to increase your price when you combine these with a local event or a local activity that's going on in that city. So here it's super important to be on top of the activity calendar of the city so that during the low season, you can have some spikes and increase your price and suffer this trendy during the low season. So here we have two examples in Florianopolis, which we were very succeed in increasing almost 20% of our ADR through very specific dates, which were Ironman in Florianopolis, a very fancy triathlon event. It's the biggest one in Latin America, and it happens in Florianopolis in the end of May. So by that time, we can see the little spike in our curve, in the first graphic in red, due to this local event. And also government events. Sometimes the city itself organizes events to, well, bring more movement to the place. And of course, it's another opportunity to suffer this trend and increase a little bit the prices due to the natural demand that the event promotes. So basically, a combination of pricing and demand help us to optimize RevPAR. And last but not least, let's talk about communication. So besides all the techniques and that my colleagues brilliant showed us here, I'm going to talk about our personas and also how, again, to really optimize our communication to invite people to explore different places in a different way. So in order to do that, I think it's very, very important to start with our personas. So we really need to understand who we are serving and what they are looking for, and adapt all your portfolio to attend these different needs. So for instance, at Kasai at this moment, we are targeting 3 different personas. Basically, to sum up, we are targeting the business travelers, the leisure travelers, and the pleasure travelers who combine leisure and business in the same travel. So we need to understand that when accommodation now serves different necessities of people, and we need to address all of them. So for instance, we need to assure our apartments have high-speed internet in our units. We also need to assure we have a proper place to work, so a proper desk, a proper chair. And we need to assure they have like enough space and a well-equipped kitchen to serve, well, all the different needs they have during the accommodation. So knowing our guests, knowing exactly why they're traveling for a Kasai, we can adapt our product accordingly. And not only the product, but also the communication. So we need to communicate exactly the trigger that this person is looking for while they are looking for an accommodation. And well, second, what we are doing here is we are seeking a lot for events, especially during the low seasons. So looking for events that are not necessarily advertised, such as local government events, and really partner with them to be able to be the official sponsor of the event. And in case you don't have a proper event in the city by the time you are in low season, create an event, be the event. So that's what we have done in Tulum, promoting a yoga retreat in one of the fanciest beach destinations in Mexico. So inviting people to join an exclusive event during this low season and being at a Kasai. So those are 2 techniques we are really, really using during the low season, especially when we need to promote traffic to places that are not very common at that time. And well, last but not least, besides all this integration and all this communication around our strategy, these are 3 tips that we use to all our projects. So first, every time that we are starting a project, we are not worried in putting in place things that scale. So do things that don't scale. This is a sentence by Paul Graham. And in the beginning of a discovery process, you need to do things in a very artisanal way, in a very manual way, with a lot of brute force. Once you collect evidence in a small experiment that this works, then you can explode. So do things that don't scale and start very small. Once we start pivoting Kasai for getaways destinations, we started with only 40 units in 5 different markets, just to understand how eager our guests were to stay in a Kasai in a beach destination. After proving our thesis, then we blow up, and now we are over 1,000 units managed by Kasai across Latin America. And last but not least, we are talking about a traveling business. So we are a short-term rental business, and we are able to provide people a different way to explore a different city. So here's an opportunity to really help people to enjoy the city in a different way. So be a local expert and help your guests to know the best restaurant, the best bakery, the best coffee in the town. Promote a place, a lounge where they can connect to each other and exchange experiences, and really bring authenticity to each touch point with our guests. Partner with local people, which we call here neighbors, who are the city experts and can help our guests during their stay in order to make the most of their stay. So yeah, that's it for today. I would like again to thank Guesty and Matthew for the space to talk about Kasai here. And any doubt, feel free to reach me anytime you need. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Roberta. Thanks so much for sharing those great insights from Kasai. I'm sure the audience definitely picked up on some great strategies that they'll want to try themselves. We are going to move on to the panel discussion. Perfect. So we will start by asking a couple questions for the entire panel. We'll go in the same order we did in which the presentations took place today. So the first question, we will start with Matt from Beyond Booking. And the question for you is, what's the one marketing or tech tool that you or your company couldn't live without, and why is that?
So I'm a huge analytics nerd, and I really believe that data and analytics are the holy grail. So I'm going to go with Google Analytics in that case. And, for the reasons mentioned a second ago, and also in the presentation, I think there's a lot of information in there that can be extracted, and there's a lot of setup, although very complicated. If you can figure out some ways to utilize the analytics that you have in a more meaningful, more purposeful way, I think you can uncover a lot more data than you think. And so this is the number one holy grail tool for me.
All right, so we got Google Analytics for Matt. Paul, what are your thoughts? Also Google Analytics, another tool perhaps?
For me, it's going to be a great pricing software. So I'm currently using PriceLab, but there is many more. I think it's super important to have this kind of software to know the market, to see the competition, to see what are the price in different locations, to see the seasonality, to set up your price as simple as that. If you do it manually, for each listing, it just takes forever. So PriceLab is definitely something that I could not live without right now.
Very, very valid. All right, so we have Google Analytics on one side of the stage. We have PriceLab, their pricing tool, on the other. Roberta, what are your thoughts on the topic?
Yeah, maybe I'm gonna say an old traditional one, but I would say some listening tool such as Social Bakers or Sling, because this enables you to have live feedback on everything that you are doing. So it's a simple way to know and read your audience in a daily basis.
Awesome. Excellent. 3 completely different answers, but very useful and interesting. Thank you for that. So we'll go now to the next question for everyone, again, starting with Matt. With the new traveler personas emerging and with the lines blurring between vacation life and work, do you think we may be headed towards a future where seasonality won't really matter all that much?
I feel like the other panelists would be able to answer that more given their vocation, but From my perspective, I see what we're saying with the ad hoc workers and remote workers, but I don't think seasonality is going away personally, just for the fact that traveling is going to be still, I think, the bulk of the market, and at least for most people. And a lot of that has to do with seasonality, just because of things like kids in school, or the times you get off of work, and some companies not allowing you to travel while working remotely and so on. So I think it's here until at least the air clears on the remote travel, and then deal with the kid in the school side. So I think it's staying, at least for the time being.
All right, so at least a temporary stay. Paul, what are your thoughts?
On my side, I would say yes and no. We can definitely see a rise of number of people working from home, or looking to work from home, like nomadic workers. But for me, the seasonality will always matter. Like, it really depends of each market, right? If I take my market in Dubai, during the summertime, it's more than 40 degrees every single day. So definitely we'll have more people coming during the winter than during the summer. And that's very specific to this market. But yeah, that's my answer. And for now, yeah.
All right, fair enough. And Roberta, can definitely get warm down in the summer down in Latin America. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think seasonality will remain existing. However, the difference of demand in a high season and low season might be not so different. Taking as an example, how hard was traveling back to the 19th century, right? So we saw an amount of volume on trips increasing dramatically, like in less than 200 years. So probably with the new trends that COVID brought to us, we are going to experience a less difference between high and low seasons, but they are still going on due to weather conditions, on my perspective.
Fair enough. Thank you for that, Roberta, and everyone. Just quickly before we move on to the next question specifically for Matt, I think there was a question from the audience. Roberta, if you could clarify the tool you mentioned in the first question, the marketing tool you couldn't live without.
Of course, it's I can write here, it's Social Bakers or Sling. They both do the same thing. Sling is stronger in Latin America, Social Bakers is stronger worldwide.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. All right, now, Matt, we have a question targeted specifically for you. What advice would you give to property management companies who are trying to create customer personas for the very first time?
Great question. And again, going back to data, you need to start early and often, as the saying goes. If you have a way to start capturing data with Google Analytics, I don't work for Google, I swear, but if you can get that implemented with analytics in mind first, whether it's a website or media posts that you're doing, any content pieces, make sure that analytics are in the forefront of your mind, even if you're not ready to work with them. You want to have as much data as possible from the starting point. And if you don't have a direct booking site, I did mention even if you're using the Guesty booking engine, you can put your analytics in there. But if you're just doing organic posting and not advertising on social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, they have an insights tool, and you can start collecting those insights. And then talking to your guests is the organic sort of offline method of doing it. And without getting into too many other techniques that are a little more intricate, start collecting that data right away at any means possible. And that's where you have to start.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt, for that recommendation. Let's go ahead and turn over to Paul and a direct question for you. Silk House is considered Asia's technology-first hospitality brand. What does it mean for a company to exactly be fully technology-first?
Yeah, sure. So I think technology is really the keys to scale up operations while keeping control of the quality, I will say. It helps us to automate processes, reduce the workload for the staff, enable us to efficiently manage a big portfolio of property. And there is plenty of softwares in the market in our ecosystem to assist the property managers to integrate tech into their operations. And it's really everywhere in our business. I can quickly make the list, but it starts with, of course, the PMS, which is in the center to get all our properties synced together with our calendars, manage our guest communication or task scheduling. Also the revenue management, as I mentioned before, we have PriceLab that is right away connected to PriceLab to know our market and set up our strategy. We also have a task management software, sorry. We are using BreezeWave, but it's one among others to be super efficient in managing all check-ins, maintenance, cleaning, any given issues. We create a task and we assign it to someone. We also have a guest application that make the experience of the guest even better and provide them a lot of information about the area, the apartments, etc. We also have smart locks and smart appliances in our apartments. So technology is really in the complete, it's the center of our business. It's really everywhere. And I will say for any given problem we have, we always try to solve it with data and with technology in order to keep our business model scalable and efficient. So yeah, if you want to scale up, you can't really do it without technology. Otherwise, you need an army of employees.
Thanks for that, and really appreciate those insights and agree the technology is really what's going to help other property management companies grow, scale, and work efficiently. Roberta, over to you. How would you sum up the seamless guest experience, and how can property management companies deliver this through their marketing techniques?
Cool. I think this is a super fancy and sexy expression. But well, not everyone knows exactly what that means. But a seamless experience means no friction during the entire process. So no disruption, no interruption during since the time a guest start to think about booking an accommodation until they actually arrive in the apartment, leave the experience there, and do the checkout. So doing the reviews. So during the entire process that they have a connection with us. How can we reduce the chance of have any friction, any problem, any distraction or bad surprise doing that? So having said that, communication have a very, very important role here by being loyal to the real experience. So we as communicators, we always have a tendency to make things more romantic, but we need to put our both feet on the floor and be super loyal to what the experience really is. So this is a very starting point in order not to have a friction with communication and experience.
Excellent, thank you for that. Looks like we have time for one more round of questions to each panelist. So let's go ahead and double back over to Matt. And we're curious, now that we're entering, say, a post-COVID travel area, what are your predictions for how the STR industry or short-term rental industry will develop in the next year or so? And are there any marketing trends or tools that short-term rental companies should be aware of or consider investing in?
Yeah, trends and tools. I think there are. So how it's going to develop, I think that a lot of PMs PMCs need to look back at some of the tools that we have already and getting more value out of them. And I think also companies like Kasai and Skillhouse, if you look to these industry leaders and the people that you want to sort of be like, they've got tons of data that they just pulled out. They're active on social media, and Guesty are running reports and sending out annual reports and things like that. This is really valuable information that you couldn't get otherwise if you guys and these companies didn't disclose that information. You'd never have access to it. So looking into those reports and into the media posts, you can really extract a lot of really valuable data that again you just couldn't find unless you had a company of that size or of that success. I think those tools are really the keys to growing and being successful, rather than looking for other software. In terms of the platforms like Guesty, I think that they're doing a great job of innovating and bringing out tools that people are asking for and people need. And as hosts continue to listen to their guests, they'll come up with other ideas and, ask for those at the PM level. With that, we'll be able to kind of grow. And I think third-party integrations will come along too. So I think the industry will just grow organically as these third-party vendors come in and partner and integrate with platforms like Guesty, and go to the resources on social media where these companies are posting and giving you literally the keys to the castle, if you will. That's all for me.
Perfect. Thank you for that insight, Matt. And now back over to Paul. One of your USPs or unique selling propositions is offering an immersive nomadic experience. How important is this offering in the STR market going forward? And, kind of related to what we were discussing earlier, does it change across different seasons?
Thanks. So I don't think it changes across different seasons, but as we said before, we can really see a rise in of number of people that are looking to work from home due to different reasons. There is a lot more of digital workers. There is a lot of people combining business and leisure, as Roberta said before. A lot of people doing home office due to the sanitary crisis that we had. A lot of relocation due to the global conflicts in the world as well. So offering this kind of experience in our market is primordial because there is a huge demand for this. Just to explain to you very briefly what is immersive nomadic experience. It's basically the idea is to provide the best working environment from home for our guests. So it goes from a very smooth check-in, help with a nice guest application and a smart lock, a strong and stable internet connection with a QR code to get internet access super quickly, smart and premium appliances, a working station available in the apartment with a proper desk and chairs, as we said before as well, and also providing the right services to the guests in according to their needs, right? And this does help us to attract a lot of nomadic workers and business travelers as well for medium and longer bookings. And this is interesting during the lower season in order to maintain your occupancy.
Excellent. Thanks, Paul. And I think you've already convinced me that I'll have to come visit Dubai and work from one of your properties for a few weeks.
Most welcome.
Thank you. All right, last question of the day we have for Roberta. And that question is, who are the travelers of tomorrow and how can we reach them effectively through our marketing campaigns?
Cool, amazing question. So actually the travelers of tomorrow are part of an emerging category that raised a lot of attention from the pandemic on. So, well, the digital nomads right now, they don't have one single reason why traveling, why moving, why visiting a different city. They combine different purposes. These have a great potential to really change the way and why we're traveling and when we are traveling. So, well, we usually talk to them by inspiring them to travel, showing different use cases of our apartments across Latin America. So we are bringing to the table common situations that in the past make people avoid traveling, such as not having, arrive in a place and have a bad experience with accommodation, no connection, difficulty to solve any problem during the stay and so on. So we bring this to the table and we show this era has already gone. So we are experiencing a new era where you can be much more free to travel whenever you want for any kind of reason. And we are here for all of them. So those are the emerging target that we are targeting in our communication.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing that, Roberta. Real quick, we did get a last minute question from the audience for the panelists, and maybe one of the three of you feels really passionate about it and would like to answer. What strategies are you using to convince people to stay in low or alternate seasons other than price? Andy, thank you for asking, and also mention that one thing he's doing is writing seasonal activity guides for their destination, for example. Perhaps Roberta, Paul, or Matt,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, so I was just gonna tie back, but if in my presentation here in slide 14, 15, so I went very quickly onto some of the content pieces. There were visual content pieces showing how we can convince someone to travel to Rome in a low season versus the high season. The benefit is you've got it all to yourself, was kind of the picture that I showed in the visual, and then also the contrast between having the cabin with the fireplace versus shoveling snow and shoveling your driveway kind of thing. So I'm using that content to kind of get people to think about visiting in off-peak seasons, and sort of, you have to show them the experience and not just offer a destination all the time, like a place to stay, but an experience in a visual that they can see themselves in that destination, having that experience.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for answering that, Matt. All right. I can't let everyone leave without mentioning that we have a completely star-studded roster of sponsors, speakers, and panelists at Guestival, which is our conference being held in Austin, Texas this year. The list includes Airbnb, Booking.com, VRBO, and really many other incredible industry leaders that you can rub shoulders with this September. We will also have our product team there. If you're already a Guesty user and you want to perhaps try to influence our product roadmap, it's a great time to do so. There was also a question in the audience about Guesty shirts, Guesty swag. If I had to guess, there will be some of that there as well. So hopefully we will see you there in Austin, Texas in September. And if this is of interest to you, please do visit the website and register at guestival.com. So as a final conclusion, thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. And really thank you so much to our panelists. We look forward to seeing everyone at the many, many upcoming virtual events that we have planned for the short-term rental community, all of which will be posted on our events page at guesty.com. Also, please don't hesitate to reach out to meetup@guesty.com with any other questions you may have. And with that being said, we wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and do stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you so much, everyone.